This is Rydo, and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, November 16th, and we've got a incredible amount of news, and not really a lot of Hearthstone to play. I am happy to say, I guess we'll re-roll this one. 5 games any mode, and then some mage cards, which jumps us into the mage, playing mage games. Okay. Good enough. I'm happy to say I am done with the end of the year 2018 Steam Wishlist Cleanup series. I recorded X, Y, and Z as one moderately long video. Each of the videos runs between 3 and 5 hours. So throughout the month of December, if you've got nothing better to do, during the last few weeks of the year, if you've got a lot of free time, there's a lot of content there that's kind of varied. I mean, we're talking about random games on the wish list instead of talking about one specific game.
You asked for it.
So I'm hoping people enjoy that, and it makes some sense. It definitely made a little bit of sense to record all of that, because that was work that needed to be done anyways. That being said, I was planning on making an end screen to stop having to do the wrap up myself and trying to make like a really polished thing there. I'm still not 100% certain that I believe I can actually pull that off. So like I haven't tried, I haven't made but kind of the very beginnings of the footage I want to do there, and but I should work on that. But the next thing that I'll work on first is I need to recover the lost footage that was the footage that was lost for the end of November, so that November lines up nicely. I believe I need 4 videos of the game back to bed, and then I can move forward and schedule some things, and then after scheduling some things I can start thinking about are there really any gaps, or are we in a good enough position to start thinking about recording January stuff.
I'll never tell.
Job's done.
A lot of news. We had games left over from Wednesday, so we really just need to go into that. There's, yeah, just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that needs to be done. I don't know if there's really anything else. In a lot of ways, we might be working our way towards the end of the end of year, and just like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm losing my train of thought. Let's just start going at the news fast. Gamer Sutra has an article, Koch Media acquisition driving record sales at THQ Nordic. This is kind of the same story we had already heard. THQ Nordic with its with it buying so many companies, its net sales increased by 1,403%. I did not realize that Koch Media and THQ Nordic were related in any way. So with that bit of information, there is an even like different thing I can take from that, because I'm fairly certain if Koch Media, let's see, net sales within Deep Silver and Koch Media is part of THQ Nordic, then Koch Media I thought was like Oh wait, isn't this the company that gets confused? Let's see. With the other one. Let's see. For the record, label formerly owned by Koch Entertainment, known as Koch Records. See Entertainment One Music. And for the multinational corporation owned by the Koch brothers, that's Koch Industries. Okay, so yeah, I was getting that confused with Koch Industries. K-O-C-H. It's not like a name I've ever really heard of before. It's kind of surprising that there's 3 different organizations using it. So yeah, this is the same story basically. Like THQ Nordic bought a lot of companies, they've got a lot of money. Hopefully they're not growing too big too fast, but almost certainly it's impossible to not believe that that is the case, because that almost certainly is the case. Ew. What can we do to cast more spells? We could do this. We could do this. We could do this. That's 1 game and 8 spells. Hop in and go for a thing. Our first game on Steam is called Zup S. I'm fairly certain Zup is part of this long-running series of what I would call, at this point, very low-effort games. Probably, like, for the achievements, you can see here, the standard achievement game where it's every letter of the alphabet and 100 achievements. Yeah, so Zup is definitely not one that deserves to be on the fall list or on the list. GameIndustry.biz has an article, and I'm gonna try and burn through all these articles because theoretically, like every stream, I want the streams not to go super long, and if I was just looking for viewers, I would go super long, like really long, but it's not worth it for the mental health cost and the time management alone. So yeah, I'm gonna burn through these because I know there's a lot, but I'm also gonna burn through these just because I want to have a shorter experience. GameIndustry.biz has an article. NetEase says anti-addiction measures, quote, should not only be focused on online games, but the Chinese publisher supports ongoing efforts to restrict screen time for young children. Of course they do, and I mean, you can't really blame a Chinese company for at least publicly supporting the Chinese government. The place is basically a dictatorship, and has been for a very long time, so anybody that spoke out against him would probably disappear or come up on corruption charges or something else. So I don't know if this really is much of a story when you put it from that filter and you understand why the sources, who the sources are, and why they might be saying what they're saying. If anything, it's kind of just not worth mentioning at all. Certainly, I guess I am in a kind of weird position with video game news compared to like 24-hour journalism in general, because a 24-hour journalism would basically try to report on anything. If a cat got stuck up in a tree and they could get good video footage of it, they would report on it on something like CNN, just because there's so much time and there's nothing else happening. Just go ahead and take this one out. And what else can we do? If I play this, I'll just die. So let's just do that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Alpha and Beta, a low effort name for a low effort game, as we can see by these just awful first year game programming assets and ideas. 40% off for $2.99. You gotta be joking. It's like, seriously. We may actually be able to burn through a lot of games. GameIndustry.biz has an article. EA partners with Petroglyph Games for the Command & Conquer remasters. Tiberian Dawn and Red Alert to be remastered with the original developers, comma, no microtransactions. So they're going to remaster Command & Conquer, Tiberian Dawn, Command & Conquer Red Alert, and the 3 classic expansion packs, Covert Ops, Counter-Strike, and Aftermath. So Tiberian Dawn, I believe, is the first Command & Conquer game in the series, if I was to guess. There we go. Keep on playing spells even if I am about to lose. It is very important, I suppose, to say no microtransactions when you're talking about EA, because that would be the initial concern, certainly, is that this game is going to be full of microtransactions somehow, or that they're going to change the game in some way that makes it a lot worse. But I think in the case for the Command & Conquer issues, the Command & Conquer remasters, they're probably just are going to charge a premium. I wouldn't be surprised if these games come out in some bundle where it is $100 to get what is effectively very, very old games. And I also wouldn't be surprised one bit if it turns out that the level of quality is not particularly good either.
We have many secrets.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a very lackluster remaster, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's definitely a thing to not get on the hype train about. GameIndustry.biz has a different article. Telltale is now undergoing liquidation, comma, removing games from Steam. And see, that puts me in a weird position because theoretically, I suppose I should go and get the last couple of games from Telltale that I don't have, which is, I guess, I think it's the 2 Batman games, Batman and Batman Enemy Within, and Minecraft Story Mode Season 2. Theoretically I should go get those, but if they're not going to be available for purchase,
You asked for it.
like, what am I really doing? Am I criticizing games that people could only like get a pirated copy of anyways? So until all that gets settled and the games come back available for purchase, I can just kind of use Telltale going under as an excuse to just stop playing Telltale games. Is that the right way to do it? Probably not. There is also the thought as a YouTuber that if I covered the last few Telltale games, once all of these games are no longer available to be played, my videos theoretically are slightly more valuable, because the only way people could see it without also pirating the game would be to watch it on YouTube, and there now will be less people less competition of people making new footage of the Telltale games, but I don't think the demand is that high, frankly. As per this GameIndustry.biz article, it says Back to the Future, Tales of Monkey Island have been delisted and employee health benefits are set to end soon. I think it's probably more than those two games. Let's see. It says, at the time of this post, more popular titles such as Batman series, Walking Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think I own Guardians of the Galaxy either. Minecraft Story Mode. They misspelled the word mode. And that's pretty pathetic. And Game of Thrones remain available for purchase. So what probably happened, if I was to guess, is the licenses for Tales of Monkey Island, which would have been LucasArts, and Back to the Future, which would have been, what, 20th Century Fox?
It's playtime.
They chose to pull those games from sale, where the other licensees and other creditors said, no, we want the games to stay on sale because we think we can make some money, or just put it in holding. Or, yeah, I mean, I don't know how that would play any other way. It seems odd that this wasn't just a simple one and done situation.
Stop copying me! Stop copying me!
Let's see. So, as of right now, even if you did try to buy all of the Telltale games you could get on Steam, you're still probably getting most of the good ones. You're just avoiding some of the lesser known, very old games. You would think that maybe it was only the games that were 100% owned by Telltale, which would maybe be the same in Max Games, but maybe not even then. But I think inherently, I've said it before, that Telltale's main problem is that they didn't own 100% any of their IPs. So, everything was a license, so you're paying this extra fee for every game you make. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Black Clover Infinite Nights is now available in Japan. This looks like it's a cell phone game. Yes, it's iOS via the Apple Store or Android via the Google Play Store. I'm a little surprised that there isn't a special Japanese or Asian only cell phone stores, but I guess iOS and Android are pretty ubiquitous everywhere except for China. I would suspect that China actually does have its own like mobile stores, and maybe there's some other countries that I'm not thinking about. Black Clover Infinite Nights does not look very interesting. Speaking of not looking very interesting, we have Badminton Warrior on Steam. And see, if all these games turn out to just be really, really bad games, this will be a real easy early access demo. It's not even out yet. So, if this comes out and is actually purchasable, then we may see Badminton Warrior again. Just got Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, and that is inherently going to be a problem with the web peak, because anytime anybody does a one-turn kill, they are going to potentially, well, not be shown on my channel because I'm doing web peek and looking at the web pages. Next we have a Chinese only game called, I assume, Adventure of Gold, which looks like it's probably just a cell phone port It doesn't support English, so of course that's not making it to the list. Burn through these games real fast.
I will fight with honor. Let the hunt begin.
This. Hold on to this. Next we have a game called Go Outside Simulator, which is of course an asset flip, low effort joke game. Early access for 99 cents.
None will survive.
I would slightly be willing to believe that there might be a VR program out there that is for people who are agoraphobic and actually have a mental problem of going outside. But when I look at a game like this and I see it's putting you in the desert, on the moon, in a creepy forest, that's asset flips, that's not that. Like, I could see walking simulators in general, even if they aren't specifically targeted to people who are agoraphobic, being slightly helpful to people with that condition, where they would potentially be able to use that to just enjoy a serene experience outside without any fear or anxiety. I wonder if any kind of psychologist has tried that. I bet somebody has thought about it before. Alright. Next we have a game on Steam called Columno? A single screen Unity game. It looks pretty generic. It doesn't really even have a menu. Instead it has what looks like just a cell phone interface. Let's see if we can watch some actual gameplay here. So the idea is to get the ball to fall down the hole, but it seems like this ball is doing different things based on different things. I'm not sure if I'm willing to give this one a chance. Honestly, it seems a little ridiculous. It clearly is a cell phone port. They're even saying that. It's 25% off for $1.49. Let's see what else this developer's made. Devilish Child has made one game called Path of Minosa, Minosine, and a mixed game called King Lucas. Let's see what Path of Minosine is. Oh yes, I know this game. Why in the world would you go from that game to this game under the same publisher? Seems like the publisher is the developer too. So I guess what I have to do here for this column now is just ignore it. Like, it clearly isn't good enough to make it to the wish list. And then that just is very, very weird that the developer of a super simplistic cell phone game has another game that's kind of anticipated and it is on the wish list. It's a weird backslide in quality. Let's see.
I hunt alone.
This. This. In the turn. Let's see.
Reporting for duty. Out of my
Next, we have a game on Steam called Psychedelica of the Black Butterfly. It's a visual novel. Looks very, very artsy. A lot of red, a lot of black. And it's from Idea Factory. I know who that is. But on visual novels, particularly, like, I really don't know where I'm going with this on the fall list. So I'll put this on the fall list, but I'm gonna have to make a decision, certainly, on just how things are supposed to work there, because I really have no clue. Like, I'm fairly certain that January, February, March, probably at the end of March, yeah, probably at the end of March, we're gonna have to make a single episode or maybe a couple episodes of just the fall list cleanup. And when that happens, a lot of visual novels will probably be on the fall list, and I'll have to decide, am I going to promote these to the wish list or ignore it completely? Alright, how do we want this to go? Just do this, I suppose, and do this. And see, I kind of don't want to kill anything, so I'll just leave it as it is. I'm gonna lose. And I'm not trying to cast spell cards right now. That's not why I took Spell Hunter. I'm really just trying to win. Gamma Sutra has an article. THQ Nordic has acquired the rights to the Expeditions franchise. So they're working on the third game in this series with the creator Logic Artists. The two previous entries were tactical RPG games, Expeditions Conquistador and Expeditions Vikings. They launched 2013 and 2017 respectively. Let's see. THQ Nordic has also recently acquired the rights to Time Splitters, Kingdoms of Amalur, and Alone of the Dark. Okay. So we do this, and then 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 that's all I could do. Next, we have a game on Steam called Chief's Quest, which looks like it might be an Angry Birds game. Let's see if we can find it. I can just conveniently not show me losing. Oh, so you're playing as a Native American person? It's so zoomed out, I have no idea. Classic action platforming game inspired by Native American culture and anime. Talk about two very distinctively different inspirations. This doesn't look horrible. See, the only anime I could think that might be slightly related to this would be like the original Dragon Ball series of little Goku running around before Dragon Ball became just a straight up fighting series. Let's try Spiteful Priest, I guess. This doesn't look horrible, it doesn't look great. I guess this is a game that is going to come down to its early access is $4.24. I kind of want to give it a special exception to make it to the fall list, just because I'd like to see more Native American style of games. Of course, the problem with doing anything Native American is unless it's made by a 100% Native American team that really knows the rich, deep culture of one very specific Native American tribe, you're mostly just falling down to the well of a bunch of hogwash and just made up stuff that that people made for Cowboys and Indians TV shows and such. Like, or you're going down the realm of perhaps something that's too violent. And see, this whole developer is developing under the name of Great Chief Studio, so they're really committing. This is kind of in the same way as the game Never Alone, where that was well, I think Never Alone probably did it really well, whereas this game very well may not be doing it very good at all. But Never Alone was made by well, Native Americans also, but in this time Eskimos, as they're commonly known. Inuits, I think, is the proper term, but I could be wrong. And they tried that. Okay, they're saying their anime influence was Princess Mononoke, which is certainly a pretty old anime, and Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, so Ghibli films. Okay, and I wouldn't 100% put it past the thought that some small bits of those Ghibli films, Studio Ghibli films, weren't also influenced by Native American culture slightly, although they're mostly influenced by Japanese culture. It's a real stretch though to put Chief's Quest on the fall list, because it really looks pretty simplistic, but not awful. Moving on though, we have Eternal Card Game, which is mostly positive, free-to-play game. Is this the card game that's gonna replace Hearthstone now? You know what I've kind of resolved to do is just put all card games that are free-to-play card games on the fall list permanently, and then every time there's a fall list cleanup, we'll look at these card games and say, hey, is this game a game that has a big enough player base? Here we can see today's peak has had 1,000 people online, the all-time peak has had 3,000 people online. That's not really enough of a peak according to Steam charts information, in my opinion.
Must consider.
So yeah, and also this really just looks like a total Hearthstone ripoff. And I think inherently that's how it's always going to break down, is that all the Hearthstone games are going to, all the card games are going to look like they're Hearthstone ripoffs, even if they aren't. Next we have Hellgate London, which we had heard this was coming back on sale. I don't know if this is a remastered version. I guess maybe it is, slightly. Is this the online part, or is it just a single player release? Let's see. Tokyo content restriction note. Read more about that. Apparently I have to click here. Let's come over here and play.
What you want? Go away!
Right away.
As mentioned before, Hellgate London Steam version has the latest updated client of the Tokyo version, which has all of the improved UI, user experience, and content. However, due to internal circumstances, Tokyo content is temporarily unavailable in order to provide you with smooth gameplay. Once stability of the Tokyo main quest is settled, you will receive a notice for a free update. Until then, you can still enjoy playing the London, Stonehenge, Second Attack, and Abyss maps. So, okay, that is a weird launch. That is definitely a weird way to relaunch your game. And here's gonna be an irony of all ironies. Let's take this card. This will let me draw new cards for free.
Right away.
So if we come back here, now that I reloaded this page, you can see this is already mixed. I'd like to put this on the fall list just for my own internal perspective, but almost certainly Hellgate London is not going to make it to the wish list. It always was this AA title trying to be something a lot bigger than what I think it ever could have been. I didn't have enough publishing funds behind it, would be my guess, to make it a smooth game, to make it a great game. Alright. Can't play this. Can play this though. Kind of have to remember how this deck works. 18 cards. I'd have to destroy 18 cards to get this to work. 18 cards plus the 5 cards in my hand. Gamasutra has an article. Magic Leap is offering grants up to 500,000 to augmented reality developers. So Magic Leap is still totally trying to make its augmented reality be a thing that happens. Fair enough. I guess Magic Leap inherently has nothing else they can do. Let's see. There we go. Another victory. And we just need 2 more victories and we'll be done with the America's account. We may have to come back here and play some grinding, play some ranked play just to have more time to go through all the news, because ideally I do want to cover all the news today, but I guess it wouldn't be terrible if I still had some games on Monday. We have this game called Windlands 2 that it looks a little bit of a mess, but maybe not too much. I think part of the problem is these characters are not standing out in the background very much, and it's just a little dark screenshot syndrome. Let's see how this game looks in play. There's a lot of repetitive, redone things. This feels like it's a Gianna Sisters style of racing game, but in 3D. Doesn't look terrible, but I'm not 100% sure that it's really a game or whether this is just a series of random encounters. Well, I've got 15 seconds to decide what I want to keep or play here, so let's come over here. Then we'll come back and look at this video some more. Yeah, it's iffy and it requires VR. Yeah, these VR games, I'll put it on the follow list, but the second I saw it required VR, which that's insane, frankly, trying to play a game like that is swinging in the air in VR, that's going to cause so much motion sickness, it'd be ridiculous. Tragic Masters on the chat, he says good game, thank you Tragic. Tragic is getting to almost 100% consistency with every stream of saying at least good game early into my streams, which is always helpful. One comment even on the chat seems to cause videos to get recommended to more people and cause at least a little bit more views to happen on the streams. There almost certainly has to be a plateau on engagement though, because I have seen streamers that have like rabid fans that are constantly spamming the chat, and the chat is just flying by non-stop, and those people don't get incredibly high views. They get what is expected for the size of their channels, but the engagement seems to not get their videos recommended to too many new people. Moving on with the news as we try to burn through all this. Gamasutra has the same story. Telltale Games delisted from Steam as the studio begins the liquidation process. There's nothing really new to say there. 3 damage to all other minions. Don't want to really do that right now. This is a VentureBeat article I have that was republished, retweeted by Cyan Games, creators of the Myst series. Apparently they're going into the publishing initiative, which I think they had already said they were going to try to publish other games. So there's this VR narrative game called Zed that they put out. I follow Cyan's YouTube channel, so just kind of out of the blue, there's this Zed trailer. Now, Zed seems to be kind of a surreal game that is 3D, sort of like Abduction, sort of like what a modern Myst game would be. It seems to have more of a consistent and personal story than, say, what Myst or Abduction had. Myst, I guess, technically had a little bit of a personal story, but it wasn't personal to the character you were playing as. It was personal to the family that you were helping or dealing with. Whereas Zed seems, from the trailer, to be telling quite the story of a man going through his life who was this animator of a comic strip character named Zed. He was working with a partner who was like his best friend as a kid, and then he at some point like signed a deal and locked out his best friend and betrayed them. And then throughout his life also he has like a slightly estranged daughter that got pregnant, and it gave him a granddaughter. Man, these VentureBeat ads just in the middle of this article, it's just an ad video for more Silicon Valley harassment cases definitely on the way. Like, wow. Talk about unrelated tasks. Oh, that was dumb.
My hand is full.
One for all and all for me.
So Zed looks very interesting. I'm very intrigued. I'll put it on the wish list, or on the follow list at least. There is something to be said about how there's this thing that's gotta happen at Cyan where the new team is slowly taking over, where the Miller brothers who ran Cyan, and they're just too old. Their programming skills not up to snuff. The stories they tell are kind of generic and boring at this point. We've heard them all before. Like, by the time you'd played all of the Myst games and seen, oh, they just do these these kind of supercilious worlds that tell a very generic and basic story. That was acceptable when Myst 1 came out, but a game like Zed really seems like much better written, much more realistic. I wouldn't be surprised if the game itself is a lot more like a walking simulator than it would be a true than a true what am I trying to say here?
Beware the
Myst style game. There we go. But also, I guess I don't want to get on the hype train for Zed because it probably is just like a 5-hour game. It may be VR only too, so that might be a slight problem. Although with Abduction, Cyan went in different directions that way and made a VR capable game, but not a VR only game. Okay, we've got to rush something. We've got to talk something, and I think we want to heal something. So let's go ahead and hit this, and hit this, and in the turn there. Moving on to the next story, TechRaptor has the article, Sony plans to skip E3 in 2019. It is the first time they'll miss this event. I am wondering if that is like first time. Sony has been a major player at E3 since the annual conference started in 1993. I guess the 1995. I guess the point to realize here is there's a slightly misleading statement here in the fact that E3 was a spin-off of not Comdex. What is the Consumer Electron CES? Yeah, the Consumer Electronics Show. So yes, while it is true that they've been around since 1995, CES was a lot earlier than that, and E3 really was just a spin-off of that. That being said, you're talking 23 years? 23 years, if my math is right, in which Sony has played a big role and had that time slot. And as I understand it, if you give up your time slot, you're at the bottom of the list, so Sony's not going to come back in 2020 and have the same time slot either. Now, for a long time, people have been saying that that E3 really didn't matter anymore. Nintendo certainly set that pattern where Nintendo just does Nintendo Direct. More and more people are realizing that just way too many things are getting announced and it's just drowning out everybody at E3. So I could kind of see their idea. But also this 100% has to be because of the fact that Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, I thought it was SEI, has moved to California, and in moving to California, it basically lost their soul as a company. Like, no longer is Sony being run by this Japanese company. No longer is this a Japanese company, and we can see that in their new censorship rules. There are requirements that all things be submitted in English, Like that's not a Japanese company anymore. Like even if it's Japanese shareholders and a Japanese parent company, this is a California company now, and they're doing everything different. And I would say they're probably doing the standard Hollywood modus operandi, where everybody has to put in their input, everybody has to take credit for success, everybody has to make changes. This is why so many Hollywood movies are bad, is because every single middleman has put their own little decision and choice in there, and it's all built around ego more than anything else. I guess in a lot of ways though, this is a great thing for PC gamers, because it looks like the PlayStation is potentially going down the toilet. The more people, more developers are going to be releasing on PC. We've been seeing that trend for a while now. I wouldn't even be surprised if this is the first indication right here that there isn't even going to be a PlayStation 5. Like up until this point it was assumed that there would be another PlayStation, but I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't. Particularly now that you could argue a lot of the PlayStation 3 and even the PlayStation 1 was probably out there to sell CDs and DVDs. Now that Sony has probably given up on the idea of people buying physical media for music and videos, the idea of sneaking in a Blu-ray player via the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4 into people's houses has stopped being a selling point. I would kind of, if I had time, like to go back to what this year's PlayStation event was. Let's see if I can remember what it was. It was the one where they started in like a barn area, just so they could show a video of the new Last of Us game that starts in the barn area. And at the end of that video, that's where Ellie kissed the girl. Like that was some big surprising revelation to me. It seemed just like, okay, fine, she's a lesbian. That's fine, except for the fact that she was like underage in the first game, so you've just like confirmed a bunch of creepy people on the internet who were shipping her as a lesbian. But I mean, honestly, that may have been mentioned in the first game too. So yeah, I didn't really care about that too much in any of that presentation. And then after that part where they were in the barn, everybody was told to walk to another studio, and most of the people in that barn missed announcements because they were getting shifted from that place to another convention hall to see. I'm not sure if there was really too much even shown. I think it was some pretty basic stuff. I know they had they had a like one of the world's best players of some obscure Japanese flute on stage playing while they were showing a little bit of footage of like Sakura Shadows Die Twice or some game like that. Like, but I don't even think they were showing footage. I think it was straight up for 5 minutes just watching that guy play and nothing else. And did they show the Quiet Man? Maybe.
Right away.
Honestly, I'm not sure that there was anything else even shown at the E3 presentation for Sony. So yeah, their presentation this year was awful. It kind of makes sense, but it also doesn't make any sense because Sony should totally have gotten a lot of the announcements that Microsoft got. This is basically from my perspective, Microsoft managed to out-negotiate all the premier exclusives at E3 from Sony, and Sony just took its toys and went home for next year. And it's not like the Microsoft presentation was that amazingly great. Sony also canceled this year's PlayStation Experience, which was a fan event the company used to reveal first and third-party titles, according to Gamma Sutra here. I mean Tech Raptor. So the idea that yes, they're going to cancel the PlayStation Experience and E3 really just feels like you're getting out of the business. Like 100%, it feels like you're giving up on being in video games at all. And I don't know what they think they're really doing. And see, what do you pull away from that? If Sony's headquarters in California really do run Sony Interactive Entertainment into the ground, can their parent company, Sony Japan, really recover from that? I don't know. Let's see. Sony, the Tech Raptor goes on to say, Sony has already revealed major upcoming titles like The Last of Us Part 2, Death Stranding, and Dreams. And that's why they say they canceled PlayStation Experience. But it also seems like they've got nothing to show. And that's so ridiculous. Like, even if you have no first-party titles at all at E3, you can announce new hardware. This is a confirmation that they won't be announcing new hardware at E3. Or you could talk about indie games. You could just have a ton of indie exclusives, but it doesn't seem like they want to do that at all. Or that you can even talk about games that aren't exclusive that are just indie games. There's something you could have done better than last E3, and there's something that you could have done better than canceling it for 2019. Now, I don't want to get too hyperbolic or too hyped or ridiculous here, and I don't think this on itself alone, even with the previous incidences, guarantees that Sony is dead and it's never going to recover, because the video game industry is very volatile. This time next year, we very possibly could be saying Microsoft screwed it up horribly and Sony's back on top, and like any number of things could happen. It just takes a few really basic bad decisions for things to switch around. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that Sony ends up trying to work with Nintendo again. Moving on though, we've got a ton of news, and I went on a bit of a rant about that, but that is big news. No E3 presentation from Sony. I suppose personally it also makes me wonder about, do I want to cover E3? And I think the answer still is yes, because I want to watch E3. And if I want to do something, the easiest way to get away with doing something is to stream it and turn it into content, even if it's content that gets copyright claimed, which I think there's some ways I can try and work around that too, because now I kind of know it's the Japanese anime looking trailers that would get content ID'd. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has a jobs roundup. Lee Scatrell joins Koei Tecmo as its new marketing manager. The editor-in-chief of PC Perspective joins Intel. Team Diginitis welcomes the new executives. So when GameIndustry.biz does the jobs roundup, they're not talking about jobs that you can apply for. They're talking about jobs that high-level management have gotten. So it's slightly less relevant information because it's inside baseball. So see, we already talked about Lee Skirchell leaves Rising Star Games for Koei Tecmo. The founder, editor-in-chief of PC Perspective has joined Intel. Team Diginitis names Heather Gorozzo and Morris Eisenman to VP roles. Hutch has announced 3 new hires. Hutch is a London-based studio. Ed Daly joins the Chinese Room. I recognize the name, the Chinese Room, but I don't know what they made. Nintendo welcomes Stephanie Palermo. It's the newest PR manager. So we'll see if that's a good thing. Nintendo's PR managers have had some trouble in the past. Tencent's Stephen Ma joins the Game Awards Advisory Board. So, yeah, if the Game Awards were in your mind a independent objective awards show, you can now know for a fact that that is also, that's never been the case, but it's definitely not the case anymore now that there's a Tencent employee on the advisory board. But I mean, it's like the Emmys and Oscars. It's always the industry patting itself on the back. What they should do, frankly, is Emmys, Oscars, Tonys should give awards to the other people. So the Tonys advisory board should give awards to the TV. The Emmys should give awards to the movies, and the Oscars should give awards to the theatrical board, and then it should just go in like a full loop that way. That would be pretty funny. Let's see, not quite enough to kill this guy. But Rovio welcomes Alexandre Pelter Normand to leadership team. Twitch announces a new chief revenue officer. Well, that'll be slightly interesting because there's more news about Twitch, which is actually kind of crazy news about Twitch that we'll get to. This is going to be the last game for this recording, though. Yeah, we might as well break them up. Gamer Sutra has an interesting article, but I'm not sure I'd ever have time to read it. And it probably is more of a video than an article, or it's just really short. Optimization techniques for developing new NES games in the modern age. Like, so yeah, that's slightly an interesting idea, but it's for kind of a ridiculous point. If there really was any kind of realm or reason to let's see. Deal 3 damage to everybody. Or kill him and then deal 3 damage to everybody. I think we do this. And then we do this. I play this. And go ahead and discover this, and then play this. TechRaptor has an article. Astroneer, Astroneer, has been delayed to 2019. Exotic Moon is now playable. These are 2 games I've not heard of, so this really is kind of one of those hype articles. It doesn't really matter if a game is delayed to me, because I only really want to look at games when they're actually out. Let's see. This.
Let me change
Steal
your mind.
this. Play
You
this.
are the Shadow's puppet.
And heal this.
Go away!
Beware the
Back there. We have a game on Steam called Beer Pong League. Doesn't look horrible, but it's pretty low polygon for something that could look a lot better. In all honesty, if you're gonna make a beer pong game, it probably needs to be in VR. It probably needs to be like really well polished. You don't want to make it look bad like this. This is early access for no reason. It's $5.99 and it requires VR. Seems like you're just really going
What now?
in a very asset flip way to try to make a pretty simplistic game in the first place. And honestly, if you're gonna do beer pong, it kind of needs to be a mini game and something bigger. Beer pong definitely feels like something that you would do as a side quest during like a Leisure Suit Larry game. I'm fairly certain you do actually play beer pong in Leisure Suit Larry Magna Cum Laude or something, something like that is the name. But yeah, as a side game, it's kind of ridiculous too. And then you have to get to the intent of playing beer pong, which is to have a slightly ridiculous game that allows you to encourage drinking alcohol while not just straight up drinking non-stop. But even at that, they're playing most of these drinking games, you're imbibing a lot more alcohol than you probably should. See, I think the average adult male can only really handle like 3, maybe 4 cups of alcohol over the course of 3 or 4 hours.
Obey.
Females are a lot less. Maybe when you're playing beer pong, you're watering down the alcohol quite a bit, or you're drinking light beer, extremely light beer if you're being careful about it. But I still think you're getting very wasted and when playing these drinking games. I guess depending on how you play it, but generally speaking, when you're playing beer pong, you're expected to drink the entire cup of whatever the liquid is, and not just take a sip of it. Well, on that statement and on that victory, we're done with the Americas account, and we've been going long enough for one episode, so let's break it up here. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Tragic Master says good game, thank you. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game, or support me through Patreon. Thank you for watching, have a good evening.